Yo, Adam Saxon with KindaCube, and in this video, I want to get you started with Power BI. Maybe it's your first time looking at all this, you want to know where to go, what to do, or maybe you've been around a little bit and you just want a refresher. It's always good to go back to fundamentals. In this video, we're going to walk through from start to finish, how do you actually do this? It is going to be a quicker version of it. If you want a longer version, we do have courses available. We have other videos on the YouTube channel, so definitely go check that out. But you know we like to do it here on KindaCube. Let's do what? Let's head over to my desktop. Before we can do anything, we need to download Power BI Desktop. Power BI Desktop is the authoring tool for Power BI. The best way to do this is go to the Microsoft Store if you're on Windows 10 or later, and you can just search for Power BI and you'll see two options here, Power BI Desktop and Power BI Report Builder. Power BI Report Builder is if you want to create paginated reports. That's not what we're going to talk about in this video. That is a different type of report type. We're going to talk about interactive reports. So what you normally think of when you think of Power BI, for that, we need Power BI Desktop. And you'll see here, I've got it installed, but you can just click in here and instead of open, you'll see get. And so you can just go grab that. The beauty of Power BI Desktop through the Microsoft Store is it gets updated every month, month over month. If you're not on Windows 10 or later, you can go to powerbi.microsoft.com and download Power BI Desktop there. When you get to the marketing page, you'll go up top where you see products, you'll go to Power BI and you can see desktop. And if we go get desktop here, we can see you can download for free. You can also see download options as well. And you can have the option of downloading either a 32-bit version or a 64-bit version of Power BI Desktop, and then go on your merry way to create reports and work with all your awesome data. Once you open Power BI Desktop, you will be presented, as of the recording of this video, with a welcome screen that looks kind of green. It's the fabric green. This gives you options to just get data, open up recent files that you've worked on, and also some other information that might be relevant for you. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. The first thing I'm actually going to show you here is the options and preview features. So if we go to File, let's go to Options and Settings and Options. I'm going to go to Preview Features, and you'll see there are all sorts of preview features you can enable to play with and test with. Power BI Desktop, like I said, gets updated every month. And so when you get a new release, just go check and see what's there. It just keeps you up to speed on what's coming, what the team is working on. Also, this is great for the Power BI team to get feedback and telemetry on like how you're using things. And the way I do things is I just enable every preview feature that's there, and I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm just going to check all these boxes and then restart Power BI Desktop. A couple of things of note with the preview features. I'm on the December 2023 build of Power BI Desktop for the recording of this video, and that includes on-object editing as well as this new welcome experience or backstage. And so it's going to look a little different. This may already be there for you in the non-preview version. So before we saw this green welcome screen, now we get more of this typical experience you would see from an Office perspective. And so here, I just want to go ahead and create a new report. You can look at other items here. If you're signed into Power BI, you can see different options that might be available to you. But let me go ahead and just click on report, and we're just going to go get started with some data. To begin this journey, we've got to get the data into Power BI Desktop, right? So I have some options here. I can click on get data. I can click on this drop-down box. We can see all the different sources here, Excel files, probably your most common things you're going to work with. Pay attention also if you have data that's already in the service. So Power BI, Microsoft Fabric, Power BI semantic models, these might be items that are already published for you. And you can also look at the data hub to see other items that might be available for you to use, like lakehouses, warehouses, and again, Power BI semantic models. These are a great way to just get going. Hopefully someone in your central group, maybe it's the finance group, maybe it's someone else, they've already created that data for you. They've pre-prepared it so that you can just jump in and start creating visuals. So definitely explore to see if this data is already available to you without going and recreating all this stuff again. You can also explore this in the service, so Microsoft Fabric or Power BI, I'll use those interchangeably. And you can go look at the One Lake Data Hub to go see if there is data available for you to already use. In this case, we're going to start our journey new. And so I'm just going to go grab some Excel data. So let's go to get data. We can go to Excel workbook. It's already right there in the ribbon bar too, because most people use Excel. So let's go ahead and get Excel workbook. I'm going to grab AdventureWorks. Let's open that up. And you'll see the different sheets that are inside of that workbook. And I can just go ahead and select that. It'll give me a preview. We'll go through and select all of these. And now one thing you're going to see here down below is you're going to be enticed to click that green load button. Please don't do that. It wants you to, but don't do it. Instead, click the button next to it called Transform Data. Thank you. Hitting transform data allows us to actually massage this data. It lets us do things with the data before we get it into Power BI desktop directly. So this is just a preview of the data. I haven't actually pulled the data in yet, but it allows me to do things like removing unnecessary columns. Maybe I want to shape it a little further. One thing we can do here right off the bat, we can give it a friendly name for the table name. And so I can just call it sales territory instead of PBI underscore sales territory, which people aren't going to understand, right? And we can go through and do that for different tables. So we're in the Power Query editor. And so inside of the Power Query editor, you've got a lot of different options. So we've got different options up on the ribbon bar that we can do. We can remove columns. We can actually just say, hey, choose columns. Maybe I want to remove some of these columns from this table, or I can right click on things. So if I right click on a field itself, you'll see different options that are available for you. Or if I right click on a column, you'll see a different context menu that might be there. So we can group, we can unpivot based on this column itself. So explore Power Query itself, see what options are available for you. Right clicking on tables or queries, this gives you options. There's a lot in there, and there are a lot of hidden items as you explore with the data that's relevant to the data that you're on at the time. And then the ribbon bars allow you to do so much more. Transform data, we can pivot, unpivot, do mathematical equations, we can add columns. All of these things are available to us. So for example, maybe I want to add a column, and we can come to customer, and I can select first name, middle name, and last name. I can come up and say column from examples, and I can say from selection. This is amazing. So let me go where someone's got a middle name. Where is Seth at? Come here and just start typing, and it automatically figures out what you're trying to do based on the pattern that you did. So I'm going to say to OK, change this to full name. But what about these nulls? Well, we can right click again. We can say replace values, and I can say null plus a space, and then replace it with nothing. And bam, there we go. We've got our names here from a full name perspective. I could then go through and say, well, look, I don't really want these other three columns because I'm just going to go off a full name, and I can delete those. And you'll see these steps over on the applied steps side. Again, we haven't pulled the data into Power BI yet. So what this is doing is saying, these are the steps I want you to transform on the data, get that back to the data source, pull it back in, and then land that data inside of Power BI. It's magical. So definitely do this before you load the data into Power BI. I will also leave you with a maxim that Matthew Roach has said, and we use this on Guy in a Cube all the time, the maxim of data transformation. So data should be transformed as far upstream as possible and as far downstream as necessary. So do it at the source if you can. Power Query is the next step, and then we come into the semantic model or DAX itself if you have to. It just helps with performance. It helps with understanding of the data. It just makes everything better. Once you're ready with your data and you've got everything in the spot that you want, you can just hit the button here, defaults to close and apply. That will pull it into the data model itself. And like a good cooking show, we've got everything done on the Power Query side. So now let's take a look at data modeling and modeling what is called the semantic model inside of Power BI. So this is where the magic is. So now that we're on the canvas itself, you'll see this data pane that's available to you. So I see my tables and my columns, and you may think that you're ready to go, but you're not. We still have some things to do. So exploring your data, we can do that from the data pane. We can also come over to this table view, and we can explore the different items that are here as well. So for the different tables, I can just go look at this. I can sort things. I can rename items if I need to. Also, when I have different fields selected or columns, fields, whatever you want to call them, you have different options up here to also change formatting, summarization, things of that nature. Also, I've got a model view where you can see that tables are related to each other. So technically, if we move this around a little bit, you'll see what's referred to as a star schema. So this is a star schema where your fact table is in the middle and you've got dimensions along the side. Technically, this is actually what's referred to as a snowflake schema, but let's go with star schema. A star schema is what Power BI runs the best on. This is what it was built against. It expects a star schema. Please look at that in terms of formatting your data. Your fact table should just have integer type data on it. Try to limit string data on it. Those should be on the dimension tables. And then you filter the dimensions, which then filter the fact table. There'll be a link in the description below that talks about why Power BI loves a star schema. I highly recommend you go read that. Also, if you want to learn more about star schemas in general, check out this book. It is called Star Schema, The Complete Reference. It's not specific to Power BI. This is not a Power BI concept. Star schemas have been around way before Power BI ever was. So this is a common industry standard. If I know other tools deal with data in different ways, but this is what Power BI does. Okay, so from this model view, we can do different things. Maybe I want to go to my internet sales table and I've got different fields that are available here. So look, I've got customer key, sales territory key, and I've got product key, right? These are keys that relate my other tables. When I'm authoring a report, I don't want to see those. So I can just say is hidden, change that to yes, and bam, these are going to be hidden. You'll see those icons change a little bit next to those. So you can hide items, you can change formatting when they're selected, come down to advanced here. You can also change sort by options, categorization for different things if you want to specify how this field should behave. These are all just hints within inside of Power BI. And then the default summarization that's there. So none versus some other things. You can go change those here. And again, when you select an item from the actual data pane, it will actually show you some additional options where you can do some of that also. So those are some basic modeling things. And now we want to add some calculations. Maybe you've got some business calculations. How do you actually define a sale, right? So there may be other things that come, it takes values from different columns. And I know DAX can be scary, but just get started with it. And there's things to help you along the way. Definitely go check out SQLBI.com. Marco and Alberto over at that site, they've got you covered from a DAX perspective to get you up to speed. And while I don't recommend this book when you're first getting started, this is definitely something to have in your toolkit as you become more experienced. The Definitive Guide to DAX from Marco and Alberto over at SQL BI. All right, so let's create our first measure in here. So this idea of a measure, it's run at runtime. It's not actually materialized in the model. So this is just a calculation. I'm going to right click my internet sales table. We can do a couple things. We can say new measure, new column, new quick measure, and then let's go ahead and do that new measure. And I'm going to put in something that I've already created here. So here we go. Total sales amount, sum X, going over my internet sales. And I'm basically combining sales amount plus tax amount plus freight all off of the internet sales table. And that defines what my actual sale amount is going to be. And then that's available. And you'll see a different icon for those measures within inside of your model. Now, if you're really not sure, you could come up here to new quick measure and you can choose some base ones that are already inside of Power BI Desktop. Or if it's enabled with inside of your tenant, you can actually ask Copilot to help you with creating this DAX based off of just common language. If you really want to explore DAX, you could head over to the DAX query view. Patrick's done a lot of videos on here, but to get to the DAX query view, you'll just see this item underneath here and you can just start writing DAX. So we can right click on a given table here and say quick queries and say, show me the top 100 rows. And you can go ahead and look at those things and explore, run them, and then even define a measure here and then add it to the model. Lots of great things. So again, take time to actually create and define these measures, make sure these equations are right, and then you can share that out with other folks so they can reuse those items. Overall, from the Power Query and the data modeling side of this, for getting data, shaping the data, modeling the data, this is going to account for the majority of your time inside of Power BI. I would say up to 90% of it is getting the data in the right spot. I know everyone wants to jump to the visualizations, the cool thing, but you got to get your data right before you can visualize it. However, we've done all that, right? So now it's time to go do the fun thing and go play with the visuals. So like a good cooking show, again, we've got a bunch of different measures in here. We've got time intelligence. We've got a calendar table. Definitely have a calendar table in your data, but we've done all the modeling. Everything's ready to go. So now what do? I've got a blank canvas in front of me. How do I actually do something? There are different ways that you can work with data here. So I could just do this. I could say internet sales and I could say total sales amount. We could just drag this on the canvas and it'll create a card visual for me. It's doing a suggestive visual type based on the field. And then you can go ahead and change those visuals if you want to something else and or also add different data, play around with that. So that's one option. The other thing you can do is you can just hit a visual up top. So I want a bar chart, and then we can start adding data in. So we can just drag and drop data right onto the visual and bam, it gets added into it. The other thing we can do is just right click on the canvas and say add visual and then start doing the same thing. We can add data from our model and I want to go ahead and add total sales amount. It's going to suggest a visual by default. Let's go ahead and change this to a line chart, and I'm going to go ahead and add in month. And now we can see that we've got different data over a given time frame. Now we can enhance this even more, and we could say, hey, I want to do by small multiples. So let's do that by year. And then we've got those different years that are available. Definitely take the time to see what options are here for the different visual types. The other thing too is understand the formatting that might be available. So let me go ahead and let's just say right click and format on the visual. It brings me to the format pane. There are so many things here that you can do to change. We can add data labels. We can adjust those those things that are available to it. You can really fine tune this to what you want within inside of that visual itself. So many options, so many things you can do with the different visuals, and the team is constantly updating to enhance them to give you more options available. What about AI visuals? There are different options inside of Power BI that let you do this. So let's take a look at that. From here, I'm going to go up to the top here, and we're going to choose under AI visuals. I'm just going to choose a decomp tree. We want to analyze data. So we're going to say internet sales. So this is the main measure that we're going to go after. And then I want to explain that by a couple of different things. So we can go in and we can say sales territory, we can say country, continent. We can also go into product, and I can say I want to do it by color, and we can do it by calendar. We can say given year and quarter. And then we can see we've got our internet sales right here. And so I can just say, maybe I don't know what it is. So let's go ahead and just say the highest value. And we can see that it's sales continent North America. And if I explore that a little bit more, we can see sales country United States. That's cool. And then let's just say I want to do this by color, and we can see the different colors that are there. So this just allows you to explore and interact with those items. And so if I say, hey, I see that silver is the lowest here. So if I click on silver, you notice that my line chart's adjusted, right? So it's filtering. So if I switch between these, you'll see how they update. By default, Power BI visuals will actually go ahead and interact with one another. And so this is where you can explore that data and tell a story with the data and learn insights with that data. I would also challenge you to don't just use a straight table visual. Use the other visuals to help tell that story. If you do want table type options available for you because that's what the business is asking for, maybe look at paginator reports also. Those are meant for raw table outputs, the old traditional operational reports that we have. But for Power BI interactive reports, it's more about the other visuals. Yes, you can use table and matrix visuals inside of Power BI, but understand that it's meant more for exploring your data, not necessarily printing off, the 300-page reports for someone to look at. Maybe these visuals that are inside of Power BI just don't meet your needs and you want something else. And so we have this idea of custom visuals within inside of Power BI. Let me go ahead and create a new page down here, and we can go, if you scroll all the way down, you'll see get more visuals. This allows you to actually go get custom visuals. These may be from Microsoft, they may be from other partners, and they can offer a lot more to your experience than just what the base visuals are. I've already included one called the aquarium visual. And if I go ahead and add that visual, then we'll say fish size is going to be on, let's do this on total sales. And we will do the actual fish on, let's do it on month. And so you'll see floating fishies, and they can help tell the story. It's just kind of a fun way to do that. And yes, I've seen an actual customer use this visual and they had it on a display TV within their organization. Explore this visual with a negative number. You'll thank me later. All right, we've taken the time to explore visuals. We've created those. We've got our report. Maybe we've added a background in there. Everything looks great. And now we need to share it with others. We can't just use it in Power BI Desktop. So what do? This is where the Power BI service comes in, and hopefully you're signed into Power BI Desktop so you can do that. Once you've got everything ready to go, you can hit this publish icon. And when you hit publish, do you want to save? Sure, I do. And you can publish it to a workspace. You could publish it to my workspace, but I ask that you not do that. You should publish it to an actual regular workspace that's out there. So let me go ahead and find the workspace that I want to publish this to. That's going to be Power BI tutorial. I'll hit select, and now it's pushing it to the Power BI service itself. All right, it says it was published but disconnected. This is because it's going to an Excel file, so you need to define how it's going to refresh in the service. So those are things you'll have to do once you get it up to the service, probably through a on-premises data gateway. But we're not going to cover gateways or setting that up. I just want to get you into the service and get you going. Let's head over to Microsoft Fabric. So Microsoft Fabric is where Power BI is. I'm in the Power BI persona within inside of Microsoft Fabric, and I'm inside of my Power BI tutorial workspace. And you'll see that our report is here. So I can click on that. I can view the report, and then I can go ahead and share this out. So I could share it via this button here. I can publish an actual app, or I can just manage access to the workspace and give folks access directly to the workspace. Now we went through all that, but one thing that's come up recently is this idea of Copilot. And I want to tease that just a little bit. So let's say that you've got your data sets already created, the data sets available in the Power BI service, and you just want to explore using Copilot. Let's see what that looks like. So you'll see here that I've got my semantic model. So this was already published, and I want to come in to here. So we see our tables here. That's fine. I'm going to close this so I can explore this. We can see discover business insights, and we can see other items up here as well. And I can say, explore this data, create a blank report. And when I do that, assuming Copilot's enabled inside of your Microsoft Fabric environment and your administrators have allowed this to be useful or to be used with inside of your organization, you will come in here and you will see this Copilot item. One thing to also be aware of is as of the recording of this video, it may not be available for everyone because it's still being pushed out. So hopefully by March 2024, everyone will have it, assuming it's been enabled. And if I come in and hit Copilot, it's going to go off of the data that's inside of here. And we can just say suggest content for this report. We're going to run it. It's going to think. It's going to give you some things that it thinks might be useful here. So let's go ahead. Internet sale performance. Cool. Let's create that report. And bam, it's going to create that report for you. Let me collapse some of these so you can see it. That's pretty good. You can further explore and fine tune it. I'm not going to use this whole video to go through Copilot, but that's an option that's available for you as well, just to get up and running quickly. Take the time, explore all the options. There are so many things to do in Power BI. I keep learning things every day still, and I've been using it since the very beginning. Let me know down in the comments, what's your favorite part of Power BI specifically? I would love to know. And have you used a custom visual? And if so, which one? If you want to learn more about Microsoft Fabric and how to just get going, check out the playlist above my head. We've got you covered. As always, thank you so much for watching. Keep being awesome, and we'll see you in the next video.